Marcus Chen had been on the orbital station for 3 months and he still couldn't get used to the artificial gravity. The Kalari had built this place as a neutral trading hub, somewhere humans and aliens could do business without the complications of planetary politics. What they hadn't counted on was how different human reflexes were from everyone else's. The marketplace buzzed with activity. Tall insectoid threats clicked their mandibles as they examined exotic fruits. Blue-skinned Voltani merchants haggled over rare minerals with their melodic voices. And scattered throughout were the Kalari themselves. The station's builders, humanoid but faster, stronger, and deadlier than any human had a right to be. Marcus worked security for the human trade delegation. It wasn't glamorous work, mostly keeping drunk spacers from starting fights they couldn't finish. But today felt different. There was tension in the air, whispers in languages he didn't understand, and too many Kalari moving with purpose through the crowds. He spotted her near the central fountain, a Kalari female dressed in the traditional black wrappings of their warrior caste. She moved like liquid shadow, weaving through the crowd with predatory grace. Most humans would have been intimidated. Marcus just watched her with professional interest. The trouble started when she bumped into Dr. Sarah Kim, the head of the human medical team. It looked accidental, but Marcus had been watching. The Kalari woman had deliberately shouldered into the smaller human, sending Sarah's data pad skittering across the floor. "Watch where you're going, soft skin," the Kalari hissed in accented standard. Her voice carried the typical arrogance Marcus had come to expect from the warrior caste. Sarah, ever the diplomat, apologized and bent to retrieve her pad. The Kalari woman stepped on it, her boot crushing the delicate device. Around them, other aliens stopped to watch. Some Kalari in the crowd began to laugh. "Oops," the warrior said, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. "How clumsy of me." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He'd seen this before on other worlds. Bullies testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push before someone pushed back. The problem was humans had a reputation for being weak. Slow reflexes, fragile bones, limited strength. It made them easy targets. He started walking toward the confrontation, his hand instinctively checking the position of his sidearm. Not that he'd be allowed to use it here. Station regulations were strict about weapons discharge. But old habits died hard. "I'm sure it was an accident," Sarah was saying, her voice strained but polite. She knelt to gather the pieces of her pad, ignoring the laughter from the Kalari onlookers. The warrior woman's eyes gleamed with malicious amusement. She placed her boot on Sarah's back, not hard enough to truly hurt, but firmly enough to pin the human in place. "Perhaps you should be more careful, little human. These stations can be dangerous for those who don't know their place." That's when Marcus arrived. He didn't announce himself, didn't make threats, didn't even raise his voice. He simply reached down, grasped the Kalari's ankle, and lifted her foot off Sarah's back. "That's enough," he said quietly. The warrior spun to face him, her face twisting with rage. "How dare you touch me, human? Do you have any idea who I am?" Marcus helped Sarah to her feet, his eyes never leaving the Kalari woman. Someone who needs to learn manners, apparently. The crowd had gone silent now. Even the ambient noise of the marketplace seemed muted. Kalari warriors were respected and feared throughout this sector of space. Their speed and strength were legendary. For a human to challenge one publicly was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "I am Shivara of the Third Talon," the warrior snarled. "I have killed 16 humans in single combat. Your species is weak, slow, pathetic. You have no business even speaking to me." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. 16, huh? That's a nice round number. Easy to remember." Shivara's hand moved to the ceremonial blade at her hip. "Mock me again, human, and I'll make it 17. "I'm not mocking you," Marcus replied, his voice still calm. "I'm just wondering something. See, humans keep track of things differently than you do. We don't count our victories. We remember our mistakes." The Kalari woman's eyes narrowed. "What is that supposed to mean?" Marcus smiled, and for the first time since the confrontation began, there was something cold in his expression. "It means you're about to learn why humans survived long enough to make it to the stars." Shivara moved faster than the human eye should have been able to follow. Her hand shot out in a strike that could shatter bone, aimed directly at Marcus's throat. It was a killing blow, delivered with the speed and precision that had made the Kalari warrior caste feared across the galaxy. But somehow, impossibly, Marcus wasn't there anymore. The slap that followed echoed through the marketplace like a gunshot. Shivara's head snapped to the side, her perfect balance destroyed by the unexpected impact. She staggered, more from shock than pain, her hand flying to her cheek. The crowd erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs. A human had just struck a Kalari warrior. Not only that, but he'd done it so fast that most of the onlookers hadn't even seen the movement. Shivara's eyes blazed with fury as she turned back to face Marcus. But there was something else there now, something that hadn't been there before. For the first time in her life, the proud Kalari warrior was looking at a human with something approaching respect. "Impossible," she whispered. "Humans are slow. Your reflexes are inferior. You cannot move like that." Marcus flexed his fingers, working out the sting from the slap. "You know what your problem is. You believe your own propaganda. Humans aren't slow because we're weak. We're slow because we choose to be. Most of the time." The marketplace had gone deathly quiet. Even the Threx had stopped their incessant clicking. Everyone was staring at the human who had just done the impossible. "But sometimes," Marcus continued, his voice carrying clearly in the silence, "we remember what we used to be before we became civilized. And that's when things get interesting." Shivara touched her cheek where the human's hand had connected. No one had struck her in combat for over a decade. The last being foolish enough to try had been a Threx mercenary twice her size, and she'd put him in the medical bay for 3 months. Yet this soft-skinned human had not only hit her, but had done it so fast she hadn't even seen it coming. "You want to know something interesting about humans?" Marcus asked, rolling his shoulders to loosen the tension. "We're the only species that evolved on a death world and still managed to invent philosophy." Shivara's hand moved to her blade again, but she hesitated. Her warrior training told her to attack, to restore her honor through violence. But her survival instincts, honed through years of combat, were screaming warnings. This human was not what he appeared to be. "Death world?" she scoffed, though her voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Your planet is a garden compared to Kellar Prime. We train in gravity twice what you're used to." Marcus nodded agreeably. "That's true. Kellar Prime has higher gravity, more dangerous predators, harsher weather. It's a tough place to grow up. But here's the thing about Earth. It doesn't just try to kill you with big obvious threats." He gestured around the marketplace where dozens of alien species were conducting business in relative harmony. Most worlds either kill everything that lands on them, or they're so hospitable that evolution gets lazy. Earth found a middle ground. It gave us just enough danger to stay sharp, but not so much that we couldn't build civilizations. Dr. Kim had backed away to a safe distance, clutching the remains of her datapad. Other humans in the crowd were starting to notice the confrontation, their faces showing mixtures of concern and curiosity. None of them looked particularly worried about Marcus's safety, which struck several aliens as odd. "Your point being?" Shivara demanded, though she still hadn't drawn her weapon. "My point is that you've been fighting humans who are trying not to hurt you," Marcus replied calmly. "Soldiers following rules of engagement, civilians trying to avoid conflict, diplomats trained to de-escalate. You've never fought a human who was actually trying to win." The Kalari warrior's laugh was sharp and bitter. 16 kills says otherwise, human. 16 humans who died because they followed the rules, Marcus corrected. Because they tried to be civilized even when facing someone who wasn't. That's not weakness, that's restraint. There's a difference. Something in his tone made Shivara step back involuntarily. The human's posture hadn't changed. His hands remained relaxed at his sides. But suddenly the air around him felt charged with potential violence. "You see, the thing about humans is that we're really good at pretending we're not apex predators," Marcus continued conversationally. "We build cities and write poetry and debate ethics. We convince ourselves that we've evolved past our violent nature, but underneath all that civilization, we're still the species that hunted mammoths with pointed sticks." A Voltani merchant nearby dropped the crystal he'd been examining. The sound of it shattering seemed unnaturally loud in the growing silence. "We're the species that looked at the biggest, strongest, most dangerous animals on our planet and decided we were hungry," Marcus went on. "We're the species that invented warfare as an art form, then felt so bad about it that we wrote rules to make it more fair for our enemies." Shivara's breathing had become shallow. Her enhanced senses were picking up subtle changes in the human's biochemistry. His heart rate was actually slowing, not speeding up. His muscle tension was decreasing, not increasing. Everything about his physiology suggested a predator settling into hunting mode. But the really scary thing about humans, Marcus said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Is that we're pack hunters? We don't just kill our prey, we eliminate threats to the pack. As if summoned by his words, other humans in the marketplace began moving. They didn't run toward the confrontation, didn't shout or draw weapons. They simply repositioned themselves with casual efficiency, cutting off escape routes and blocking sightlines. To most observers, it looked random. To Shivara's trained eye, it was obviously coordinated. 37 humans on this station, Marcus observed, apparently reading her thoughts. Merchants, diplomats, scientists, security personnel. You know what they all have in common? They're all pack. The realization hit Shivara like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just been individually restraining themselves. They'd been collectively holding back, presenting a carefully crafted image of weakness to lull potential enemies into complacency. It was a deception so elaborate, so perfectly maintained, that even the galaxy's intelligence networks had been fooled. The 16 humans you killed, Marcus said softly, they weren't trying to survive. They were trying to protect something bigger than themselves. They died to maintain the illusion that humans are harmless. And you fell for it completely. Shivara's hand trembled as she gripped her blade. For the first time in her adult life, she was genuinely afraid. Not just of this human, but of what he represented. If he was telling the truth, if humans had been deliberately concealing their true capabilities, then every assumption the Kalari had made about their new galactic neighbors was wrong. What do you want? She asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Marcus smiled, and it was like watching a mask slip away. The expression was warm and friendly, but there was something predatory lurking behind his eyes. I want you to understand something very clearly. Dr. Kim is under human protection. So is every member of our delegation. So is this entire station as far as we're concerned. He took a step closer, and Shivara fought the urge to retreat. You can apologize to Dr. Kim for your rudeness. You can pay for the damage to her equipment. And you can spread the word that humans aren't as soft as they appear. Do all that and we'll consider this a learning experience. And if I refuse, Shivara whispered. Marcus's smile widened, showing too many teeth. Then you'll find out why humans stopped keeping track of their kills. Hint, it's not because we became peaceful. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Around the marketplace, aliens watched with growing unease as they began to understand that they were witnessing something far more significant than a simple confrontation. The balance of power in this sector of space was shifting, and they were seeing it happen in real time. Shivara looked into Marcus's eyes and saw her own death reflected there. Not an immediate threat, but a promise. If she escalated this situation, she would not survive it. None of the Kalari on the station would survive it. Slowly, carefully, she removed her hand from her weapon. The tension in the marketplace was thick enough to cut with a blade. Shivara stood frozen, her warrior instincts warring with her survival reflexes. Every fiber of her being screamed for violence, for the restoration of her honor through combat. But the human's words had planted a seed of doubt that was growing into full-blown terror. 37 humans, she said quietly, her voice barely audible. All of them like you? Marcus tilted his head, considering the question. Define like me. If you mean trained killers, then no. Dr. Kim there is a xenobiologist. Professor Williams over by the fruit stand teaches literature. Captain Rodriguez is a cargo hauler who's never fired a shot in anger. Relief flickered across Shivara's features, but it died quickly when Marcus continued. But if you mean humans who will do whatever it takes to protect their pack, then yes, all of them. He gestured casually toward the crowd. Dr. Kim once spent 18 hours performing surgery in a collapsing bunker to save wounded colonists. Professor Williams organized the evacuation of an entire settlement when pirates attacked, getting 3,000 civilians to safety. Captain Rodriguez flew supply runs through an active war zone for 2 years, bringing medicine to refugees. Each example hit Shivara like a physical blow. These weren't soldiers or warriors. They were civilians who had faced impossible odds and won through sheer determination. You see the pattern? Marcus asked conversationally. Humans don't fight because we're aggressive. We fight because we refuse to let our people suffer. It's not about honor or glory or proving strength. It's about something much more dangerous. What? Shivara whispered. Love, Marcus said simply. We love our pack so much that we'll become monsters to protect them. The words seemed to echo in the silence. Around the marketplace, aliens who had been eavesdropping began to back away. The concept wasn't unknown to them, but the way this human spoke of it made it sound like a weapon. Dr. Kim chose that moment to step forward. Marcus, I think she understands. The security officer looked at his colleague, and Shivara saw his entire demeanor shift. The predatory aura faded, replaced by genuine concern. Are you hurt, Sarah? Just my pride, Dr. Kim replied with a rueful smile. And my data pad. Nothing that can't be replaced. Marcus nodded, but his eyes stayed hard when they returned to Shivara. You hurt her. She's fine, no permanent damage. That's the only reason you're still breathing. Shivara found her voice. You would have killed me, here? On a neutral station with thousands of witnesses. If necessary, Marcus replied without hesitation. But I would have preferred not to. Killing you would have made things complicated. Better for everyone if you simply learned from this experience. The casual way he discussed her potential death sent chills down Shivara's spine. This wasn't bravado or intimidation tactics. He was stating facts as calmly as if he were discussing the weather. What are you? She asked. What are humans really? Marcus smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. We're exactly what we appear to be. Teachers, doctors, merchants, scientists. People who want to build something better than what came before. The violence is just a tool we keep in reserve. Like a blade kept sharp but sheathed, Shivara said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. Exactly. Most species either abandon violence completely and become victims, or embrace it fully and become predators. Humans found a third option. We became gardeners with very sharp teeth. Dr. Kim laughed softly. That's actually a pretty good description of us. Shivara looked around the marketplace with new eyes. The humans scattered throughout the crowd weren't just randomly positioned. They had instinctively arranged themselves for mutual protection, creating overlapping fields of observation and response. They weren't even aware they were doing it. It was as natural to them as breathing. How long? She asked. How long have you been hiding what you really are? Since we made first contact, Marcus replied. The galaxy was already full of warrior races. The last thing it needed was another one. So we decided to be something else, but why reveal it now? Why show me? Marcus's expression grew serious. Because the galaxy is changing. There are threats out there that the warrior races can't handle with strength alone. The Devourers in the Outer Rim, the AI rebellion in the Centauri cluster, the dimensional tiers near Vega Prime. Shivara knew about these threats. Every military commander in known space did. They were existential dangers that required more than traditional warfare to address. The galaxy needs problem solvers, Marcus continued. People who can think laterally, adapt quickly, find solutions instead of just fighting battles. But it also needs protectors. People who will stand between the innocent and the darkness, no matter the cost. And humans can be both, Shivara said. Pieces falling into place. We can be whatever the situation requires, Marcus confirmed. Diplomats when peace is possible. Warriors when war is necessary. Scientists when knowledge is needed. We're not limited by caste or species-wide cultural imperatives. The implications were staggering. A species that could adapt its entire social role based on necessity? It was unprecedented in galactic history. The slap, Shivara said suddenly. You could have killed me then, couldn't you? When I attacked you? Marcus nodded. Your strike was fast, but it was telegraphed. You pulled back too far, gave away your intention. I had 3 different options to end the fight permanently. I chose the one that left you intact and humiliated instead of dead and martyred. Why? Because dead warriors become legends. Humiliated ones become cautionary tales. Which one do you think serves my purposes better? Shivara felt a strange sensation that took her a moment to identify. Respect. Not just for this human's physical capabilities, but for his strategic thinking. He had outmaneuvered her on multiple levels simultaneously. What happens now? She asked. Marcus glanced at Dr. Kim, who nodded encouragingly. Now you have a choice. You can try to restore your honor through violence, in which case you'll die and accomplish nothing. Or you can be smart about this. Define smart. Help us, Dr. Kim said, surprising everyone. The Kalari are facing the same threats we all are. Your warrior traditions are valuable, but they're not enough anymore. You need allies who can think differently, fight differently, solve problems differently. Shivara stared at the human scientist. You're offering an alliance? After I humiliated you publicly? I'm offering evolution, Dr. Kim replied. The chance for both our species to become something greater than either could be alone. Marcus stepped closer to Shivara, but this time his approach felt less threatening. The galaxy has plenty of warriors. What it needs now are guardians. People who understand that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it. Shivara looked around the marketplace one more time. The other aliens were watching nervously, waiting to see how this confrontation would resolve. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Whatever decision she made here would ripple outward, affecting relations between species for generations to come. Slowly, deliberately, she knelt and gathered up the pieces of Dr. Kim's broken data pad. The act of kneeling was perhaps the most shocking thing that had happened yet. Kalari warriors simply didn't kneel. Not to anyone, not under any circumstances. It was so deeply ingrained in their culture that many aliens gasped audibly at the sight. Shivara gathered every fragment of the broken data pad, her movements careful and deliberate. When she stood, she held the pieces out to Dr. Kim with both hands, a gesture of profound respect in Kalari culture. "I will replace this device," she said formally, "and I will ensure that no harm comes to any human on this station while I draw breath." Dr. Kim accepted the fragments with matching solemnity. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Marcus watched the exchange with satisfaction. He had hoped for de-escalation, but this was better than he had dared expect. A Kalari warrior voluntarily submitting to human authority would send shockwaves through the galactic community. "There's something else," Shivara said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Something you need to know about why I was here today." Marcus felt his combat instincts sharpen. "Go on. This wasn't random." "I was sent here specifically to test human responses to provocation. The Kalari High Command has been concerned about your species' rapid expansion into our traditional territories." The temperature in the marketplace seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus's expression went carefully neutral, which somehow made him appear even more dangerous. "Sent by whom specifically?" he asked quietly. "War leader Kethvar of the 7th Talon. He commands the fleet stationed at the system's edge." Shivara's voice grew smaller with each word. "There are 40 Kalari warships holding position just outside sensor range." Dr. Kim paled. 40 ships? That's enough firepower to reduce this station to atoms, or to destroy any human reinforcements that might arrive. Marcus added grimly. "How long before they expect your report?" 6 hours, Shivara admitted. "I was supposed to gauge human combat capabilities and report back on your weaknesses." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his mind racing through possibilities. The situation had just become infinitely more complex. A single warrior testing boundaries was one thing. An entire fleet conducting reconnaissance was something else entirely. "What were your orders if humans proved more capable than expected?" he asked. Shivara hesitated. "To eliminate all witnesses and call in the fleet for a preemptive strike." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Around them, the few aliens who had been close enough to overhear began backing away more urgently. This was no longer a simple confrontation between individuals. This was the prelude to a potential war. Dr. Kim stepped closer to Marcus. "How many humans are actually on this station?" 37, like I said. "But Sarah, that's not the real question you should be asking." "What is?" Marcus smiled, and there was something almost predatory in the expression. "The real question is how many humans the Kalari think are on this station." Understanding dawned on Dr. Kim's face. "The manifests. The official passenger lists show 37 humans," Marcus confirmed. "But those are just the ones traveling under human documentation." Shivara frowned. "I don't understand." "Humans are very good at adapting," Marcus explained. "We've been traveling under false documentation for decades. Kalari papers, Threx identification, Voltani trade permits. Most of the time it's just for convenience, avoiding the bureaucratic hassles that come with being a new species. But sometimes," Dr. Kim added, catching on to the implications, "it's for security." Marcus nodded. "There are actually 218 humans on this station. The extra ones include intelligence operatives, military advisors, and what you might call specialists." Shivara felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. 200? But that's impossible. Our sensors would have detected them. Would they? Marcus asked mildly. "Your sensors are calibrated to detect Kalari, Threx, Voltani, and a dozen other known species. But humans, we're biochemically close enough to several other species that we can fool most scanning systems with the right preparation." The implications were staggering. If humans had been infiltrating galactic society for decades, gathering intelligence while appearing harmless, then every assumption about their capabilities was wrong. How many other stations? Shivara whispered. How many other worlds? Enough, Marcus said simply. The galaxy is a dangerous place. We learned that lesson early, so we decided to be prepared. Dr. Kim was looking at Marcus with a mixture of admiration and concern. Just how prepared are we exactly? Well, Marcus said thoughtfully, let's just say that if 40 Kalari warships suddenly appeared in this system, they might be surprised by the response they receive. As if summoned by his words, a soft chime echoed through the marketplace. It was the station's communication system, normally used for routine announcements, but the message that followed was anything but routine. Attention all residents and visitors. This is Station Commander Valthek. We have detected the approach of multiple unidentified vessels. All non-essential personnel should report to designated emergency shelters. This is not a drill. The marketplace erupted into chaos as aliens rushed for the exits, but Marcus noticed that the humans in the crowd weren't panicking. They were moving with purpose, heading for specific locations with the kind of coordination that spoke of prior planning. The fleet, Shivara breathed. Kethvar must have grown impatient. He wasn't supposed to reveal their position. Marcus pulled out a communicator, speaking into it in rapid, clipped tones. This is Guardian 7. Implement Protocol Omega. All shepherds to active status. The flock is under threat. The response came back immediately in a voice that Shivara recognized as human, though she couldn't see the speaker. Copy, Guardian 7. Shepherds are moving to position. Estimated deployment in 4 minutes. Shepherds? Shivara asked. Specialist, Marcus replied cryptically. The kind who make sure that threats to human civilians are dealt with permanently. Dr. Kim was checking her own communicator. Marcus, I'm getting reports from all over the station. Hidden weapon caches are being activated. Civilian areas are being sealed and hardened. It's like the entire station is transforming into a fortress. Because it is, Marcus said. Humans don't just live somewhere, Sarah. We adapt it. We improve it. We make it serve our purposes. Shivara stared at him in growing horror. You've been planning this, all of it. The station, the positioning, everything. We've been planning for every contingency we could imagine, Marcus corrected, including the possibility that someone might decide humans were too dangerous to be allowed to live. The chime sounded again, but this time the voice that spoke was human. The station commander had apparently been replaced. This is Captain Elizabeth Chen, acting commander of Haven Station. To the Kalari fleet currently holding position at the system's edge, you have entered human-protected space without authorization. You have 10 minutes to withdraw or you will be considered hostile. Shivara's legs nearly gave out. Human-protected space? But this is a Kalari station. Was a Kalari station, Marcus corrected gently. But the Kalari don't actually own it anymore. They haven't for about 6 months. The purchase was handled through about 15 shell companies and 3 different species' legal systems. But the paperwork is all legitimate. You bought our station out from under us? We bought a strategic location that happened to be occupied by various species, Dr. Kim said diplomatically. The Kalari were welcome to stay as tenants. Marcus's communicator crackled again. Guardian 7, this is Shepard Prime. We have visual confirmation of 41 Kalari vessels. Configuration suggests heavy assault pattern. Recommend immediate defensive action. Negative, Shepard Prime. Hold position unless fired upon. We're still hoping for a peaceful resolution. Shivara looked at the human with new eyes. Even now, with a fleet of warships bearing down on them, he was trying to avoid bloodshed. What do you need from me? She asked quietly. Marcus studied Shivara's face carefully, looking for any sign of deception. What he saw there surprised him. The proud Kalari warrior was genuinely offering to help, despite everything her culture had taught her about humans. Can you contact your fleet? He asked. Yes, but Kethvar won't listen to me. He considers me compromised the moment I failed to eliminate you within the first few minutes of contact. That's not what I'm asking, Marcus said patiently. I don't need you to convince him to withdraw. I need you to buy us time. Dr. Kim frowned. Time for what? For the cavalry to arrive, Marcus replied, checking his communicator again. Shivara, how long would it take your fleet to reach the station from their current position? At full combat speed? 12 minutes, maybe 10 if Kethvar is feeling aggressive. Perfect. And how long does it take to charge your main weapons from a cold start? Shivara's eyes narrowed. That's classified military information. Shivara, Marcus said quietly. In about 8 minutes, your entire fleet is going to discover that they've flown into a trap. The only question is whether they find out the easy way or the hard way. The Kalari warrior was quiet for a moment, wrestling with a lifetime of military conditioning. Finally, she spoke. 6 minutes for main batteries, 12 for full combat readiness. Too long, Marcus muttered. They'll figure out what's happening before they're ready to fight effectively. What exactly is going to happen? Dr. Kim asked nervously. Before Marcus could answer, the air around them shimmered. Where empty space had been moments before, a squad of figures materialized. They wore form-fitting armor that seemed to bend light around it, making them difficult to focus on directly. Their weapons were sleek and unfamiliar, clearly more advanced than anything in standard galactic arsenals. Shepherds, Marcus said by way of introduction, our insurance policy. The lead figure removed their helmet, revealing a human face marked by tactical scars and cybernetic implants. Guardian 7, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up something big heading this way. Define big, Marcus said. Dreadnought class may be bigger. It's still too far out for detailed scans, but the energy signature is enormous. Shivara went pale. That would be the Kalethmore, Kethavar's flagship. If he's bringing that into the system, he's planning to glass the entire station. Dr. Kim stared at the invisible soldiers. Just how long have you people been planning for this? About 30 years, the Shepherd leader replied. Ever since we figured out that the galaxy's power structure was fundamentally unstable. Too many warrior races, not enough cooperation. It was only a matter of time before someone decided to thin the herd. Marcus nodded grimly. The question was whether we'd be doing the thinning or getting thinned. We decided to prepare for both contingencies. 30 years, Shivara repeated numbly. You've been preparing for war for 30 years? We've been preparing for survival, Marcus corrected. War is just one of the tools in that toolkit. The Shepherd leader was monitoring something on her armor's display. Guardian, we're getting reports from Observer Station. Multiple fleets are moving throughout the sector. This isn't just about us anymore. Who? Marcus demanded. Threx battle groups, Voltani war fleets, even some independent systems are mobilizing. Word is spreading that the humans have finally shown their true nature. Dr. Kim sank onto a nearby bench. This is it, isn't it? The war we've been trying to avoid. Not if we can help it, Marcus said firmly. Shepherd Prime, implement Protocol 7. I want full-spectrum deployment, but defensive postures only. No one fires unless fired upon. Understood. What about the Kalari fleet? Marcus looked at Shivara. That depends on our friend here. Can you get a message to your commander? What kind of message? The kind that saves everyone's life, including his. Shivara activated her personal communicator, the device crackling to life with static. War Leader Kethavar, this is Shivara. Priority Alpha Communication. The response came back immediately, harsh and angry. Shivara, report your status immediately. Have you eliminated the human targets? Negative, War Leader. The situation has evolved. Evolved how? Speak clearly, warrior. Shivara looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Sir, the humans are not what we believed them to be. They are significantly more capable than our intelligence suggested. Impossible. Our data is comprehensive. Sir, with respect, our data is wrong. The humans have been concealing their true capabilities for decades. This station is heavily fortified and defended by forces we never detected. There was a long pause. When Kethavar spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. Are you suggesting we abort the mission? I'm suggesting we reconsider our objectives, Shivara replied carefully. The humans appear to be offering dialogue rather than immediate conflict. Dialogue is weakness. The Kalari do not negotiate from a position of compromise. Marcus stepped forward and spoke loudly enough for the communicator to pick up his voice. War Leader Kethavar, this is Marcus Chen, Acting Human Representative. I have a proposition for you. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Kethvar's voice came through, dripping with contempt. A human dares to address me directly? A human who is currently sitting in the command center of what you thought was a defenseless station, Marcus replied calmly. A human who has 41 of your ships under active targeting locks. Impossible. We have full sensor sweeps of this system. You have sensor sweeps of what we wanted you to see, Marcus corrected. Would you like a demonstration of what you missed? Marcus nodded to the Shepherd leader, who spoke into her own communicator. Observer station. Light up grid 7 for 5 seconds. Shivara's communicator immediately erupted with excited chatter from Kalari ship commanders. War leader. New contacts. Massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system. How many? Kethvar's voice had lost its confident edge. Dozens, sir. Maybe hundreds. They're everywhere. The Shepherd leader smiled coldly. That was just the greeting, war leader. Would you like to see what happens when we stop being polite? Marcus held up a hand. That won't be necessary. War leader. Kethvar, you came here to assess human capabilities. Consider your assessment complete. We are not the harmless merchants and scientists you believed us to be. What are you? Kethvar's voice was barely above a whisper. We are the species that looked at a galaxy full of warrior races and decided to become something different, Marcus replied. We are gardeners, teachers, healers, and builders. But when our people are threatened, we become something else entirely. And what is that? Marcus's smile was visible even through the audio connection. The reason your ancestors learned to fear the dark. The communicator went silent. In that silence, Shivara found herself holding her breath. The next few minutes would determine whether the galaxy descended into a war that could destroy entire civilizations. When Kethvar spoke again, his voice was different. Older somehow, more tired. Human, what are your terms? Marcus felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. The next words he spoke would either prevent a galactic war or trigger one that could consume entire star systems. He took a deep breath and chose his words carefully. No terms, he said simply. Just an invitation. The confusion in Kethvar's voice was audible. Invitation to what? To see what the galaxy could become if we stopped fighting each other and started fighting the real threats. Marcus gestured to Dr. Kim, who understood immediately and began activating her portable display unit. Shivara, Marcus continued, please tell your war leader what you know about the Devourer fleets in the Outer Rim. The Kalari warrior straightened, her military training taking over. Sir, human intelligence appears to be significantly more comprehensive than ours. They have detailed information about threats that our own reconnaissance has only glimpsed. Dr. Kim's display flickered to life, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers indicated known Devourer incursions, AI rebellion zones, and dimensional anomalies. The scale of the threats was staggering. War leader, Marcus said formally. What you're seeing is why humans have been preparing for 3 decades. Not to fight the Kalari or any other galactic species, but to fight the things that want to destroy all of us. Kethvar's voice came through the communicator with growing urgency. How did you obtain this intelligence? By going places no one else was willing to go, the Shepherd leader interjected. By investigating threats that other species dismissed as impossible. By losing good people to gather information that might save everyone else. Marcus nodded grimly. We've lost entire exploration fleets to the Devourers. We've had research stations consumed by AI swarms. We've watched dimensional tiers swallow entire colonies. And through it all we've learned. Learned what? Shivara asked, though she was beginning to understand. That conventional warfare is useless against these threats, Dr. Kim explained. You can't fight the Devourers with honor duels. You can't negotiate with rogue AIs. You can't intimidate dimensional parasites. You need new approaches, like what? Kethvar demanded. Marcus smiled. Like convincing proud warrior races to work together instead of wasting their strength fighting each other. The silence that followed was pregnant with possibility. Finally, Kethvar spoke again. You're suggesting an alliance. I'm suggesting evolution, Marcus replied. The galaxy is changing, war leader. The old ways of thinking aren't going to be enough. We need to adapt or we're all going to die. The Kalari do not adapt. We conquer. And what happens when there's nothing left to conquer because it's all been devoured? Marcus asked quietly. What happens when your strength means nothing? Because your enemy doesn't understand the concept of defeat. Shivara stepped forward. War leader, I have seen human capabilities firsthand. They are not asking us to abandon our strength. They are asking us to use it more effectively. Explain. They fight like we do, but they think differently. They plan for contingencies we never consider. They prepare for threats we don't even recognize. Shivara paused, choosing her words carefully. They are what we could become if we learn to see beyond the next battle. The shepherd leader was monitoring her displays. Guardian, we have a problem. The Threx fleet just jumped into the outer system. 12 heavy cruisers and a battle carrier. Marcus cursed softly. Kethvar, we're about to have company. The Threx have decided to join the party. The Threx are ancient enemies of the Kalari, Kethvar replied. If they are here, it is to ensure our destruction. Or to prevent their own, Dr. Kim suggested. Think about it. If word is spreading that humans are more dangerous than originally believed, every major power is going to want to either ally with us or eliminate us before we become a threat. Marcus nodded. Which means we have a very narrow window to prove that cooperation is more valuable than conquest. What do you propose? Kethvar asked. Joint operations, Marcus said immediately. Human intelligence, Kalari strength combined against a real threat. Something big enough to matter but small enough to handle with the forces we have available. The shepherd leader looked up from her displays. Actually, Guardian, we might have just the thing. Long-range sensors are picking up Devourer scouts in the Kepler Nebula. 3 ships. Probably advance reconnaissance for a larger force. Shivara's breathing became rapid. Devourers?
Actual Devourers?
About 47 hours away at maximum burn, the shepherd confirmed. Too far for our defensive platforms to engage, but well within range of a joint fleet operation. Marcus looked at Shivara, then spoke into the communicator. War leader, here's your chance to see what humans can really do. Joint strike force, combined tactics, real enemy. Are you interested? The Kalari do not share command with inferior species, Kethvar replied automatically. Then don't, Marcus said simply. You command the Kalari forces. I'll command the human forces. We coordinate, not integrate. And the Threx? Let's ask them. Marcus activated his own communicator. Threx battle group designation unknown. This is Marcus Chen representing human interests in this system. Please respond. The response came back in the clicking, chittering language of the Threx before switching to accented standard. Human Marcus Chen, this is Hive Commander Zekthal. We come to assess threat level of human expansion. Threat level is significant, Marcus replied honestly, but not to species willing to cooperate against mutual enemies. Are you familiar with Devourer activity in the Kepler Nebula? There was a long pause. Devourer presence confirmed. Threx colonies and adjacent systems have gone silent. Then you understand the priorities, Marcus said. We can fight each other and let the Devourers pick off the survivors, or we can deal with the real threat first. Dr. Kim was working frantically at her display. Marcus, I'm getting reports from Observer Station. The dimensional tiers near Vega Prime are expanding. Whatever's causing them is accelerating. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. How long? At current expansion rate? 6 months before they destabilize the entire sector. War leader Kethvar, Hive Commander Zekthal, Marcus said formally. The galaxy is ending. Not tomorrow, not next year, but soon enough that our children will see it. We can spend what time we have left fighting each other, or we can spend it finding solutions. What kind of solutions? Zekthal clicked. The kind that require the best warriors in the galaxy working with the best problem solvers in the galaxy, Marcus replied. The kind that require Kalari strength, Threx adaptability, and human innovation all focused on the same goals. Shivara stepped closer to the communicator. War leader, I request permission to volunteer for this joint operation. Denied. You are compromised by human influence. With respect, sir, I am educated by human methods. There is a difference, Marcus smiled at the distinction. War leader, the operation against the Devourer scouts launches in 6 hours. If you want to see what humans are capable of, this is your chance. If you decide you don't like what you see, you can always resume hostilities afterward. And if we refuse, then you'll miss the chance to be part of the solution, Marcus said simply. And when the real war comes, you'll be fighting it alone. The communicator went silent. In the distance, alarms were sounding as the station's population continued to take shelter. But here in the marketplace, representatives of 3 species were waiting to see if the galaxy's future would be decided by wisdom or by warfare. When Kethvar spoke again, his voice carried the weight of command decisions that had shaped empires. Human Marcus Chen, the Kalari will participate in this joint operation. But understand this. If you betray us, if this is some elaborate trap, the consequences will be beyond your comprehension. Understood, Marcus replied. Hive Commander Zekethal, the Threx will also participate, but we reserve the right to withdraw if human methods prove ineffective. Fair enough. Marcus looked around at the assembled group. Then let's go hunting. Persistence watching the combined fleet take formation through the main view screen. 41 Kalari warships held the center, their sleek predatory hulls gleaming with weapon arrays. 12 Threx vessels flanked them, their organic-looking ships pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. And scattered throughout the formation, almost invisible until they chose to reveal themselves, were the human ships. Final count? Marcus asked his tactical officer. 87 vessels total, sir. Kalari and Threx are broadcasting full sensor data as agreed. We're maintaining stealth protocols on our reserve units. Dr. Kim stood beside Marcus, no longer the peaceful scientist from the marketplace. She now wore the uniform of a human military advisor, her gentle demeanor replaced by sharp analytical focus. Devourer scouts are maintaining course. 3 ships, heavy configuration. They don't seem to be aware of our approach. That's the scary part, Marcus muttered. Devourers are never unaware. If they're not reacting, it's because they want us to attack. Shivara's voice came through the communications array from the Kalari flagship. She had been granted a position as liaison officer, despite Kethvar's initial objections. Human vessels' Kalari sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns around the Devourer ships. It's like they're feeding on something. Feeding on what? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. The nebula itself, came the reply from Hive Commander Zekthal. Threx biosensors confirm massive energy drain from surrounding space. The Devourers are not scouting. They are harvesting. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Harvesting for what? Dr. Kim was frantically working at her science station. Marcus, if they're converting the nebula's energy into usable power, they could be building something. Something big. How big? Planet killer big. Maybe star killer big. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. This wasn't reconnaissance. This was preparation for something that could sterilize entire systems. All ships, this is Guardian Prime, Marcus announced. New intelligence suggests Devourer forces are constructing a superweapon. Mission parameters are now critical priority. Kethvar's voice cut through the communications array. Human Commander, Kalari forces request immediate attack. These creatures must not be allowed to complete their construction. Negative, War Leader. Rushing in is exactly what they want us to do. Marcus turned to his tactical display. Dr. Kim, what do we know about Devourer defensive capabilities? They adapt, she replied grimly. Every attack that doesn't destroy them completely makes them stronger. Traditional ship-to-ship combat is essentially useless. Then what do you suggest? Zekthal clicked. Marcus smiled, and for the first time since this crisis began, it was a genuinely pleased expression. We do what humans do best. We cheat. Explain, Kethvar demanded. Devourers adapt to direct attacks by analyzing the weapon signatures and developing countermeasures, but they have to survive the initial assault to adapt, so we don't give them that chance. Marcus activated the fleet-wide tactical display. Phase 1. Kalari forces execute a full frontal assault, maximum firepower. This will force the Devourers to focus their defensive adaptations on conventional weapons. And when they adapt? Shivara asked. Phase 2. Threx forces implement biological warfare protocols. Devourers have no defense against bioweapons because they're purely mechanical entities. And when they adapt to that? Zekthal inquired. Phase 3. Human forces deploy weapons that don't exist yet. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Kethvar spoke. Weapons that don't exist yet? Temporal displacement charges, Dr. Kim explained. We remove the target from this timeline entirely. Can't adapt to something that erases you from existence. That technology is theoretical, Zekthal protested. It was theoretical 6 hours ago, Marcus corrected. Human engineering teams have been working on practical applications since we identified the threat. Sometimes necessity really is the mother of invention. Shivara's voice carried a note of awe. You designed and built weapons to counter an enemy you'd never fought in 6 hours. We designed the weapons 30 years ago, Marcus replied. We just built them in 6 hours. There's a difference. The tactical display showed the Devourer ships beginning to change formation. They had detected the approaching fleet and were preparing for battle. All ships, this is Guardian Prime. Commence Operation Trinity. Kalari forces, you are weapons free. Show them what warriors can do. The response was immediate and devastating. 41 Kalari warships opened fire simultaneously, their combined energy output enough to illuminate the entire nebula. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and kinetic projectiles hammered into the Devourer formation with overwhelming force. For a moment, it looked like the attack might succeed. The first Devourer ship staggered under the assault, its black hull showing actual damage. But then the adaptation began. Energy shields materialized around all 3 ships, deflecting subsequent attacks. Hull plating shifted and reconfigured, becoming more resistant to kinetic impacts. Phase 1 complete, Marcus announced. Threx forces, you are weapons free. Show them what evolution can do. The Threx attack was completely different. Instead of energy weapons, their ships released clouds of engineered organisms, biomechanical viruses designed to consume metal and disrupt electronic systems, living acids that could eat through any known material, parasitic entities that turned enemy technology against itself. The Devourers tried to adapt, but biological warfare operated on different principles than conventional weapons. Their mechanical systems began to fail as the bioweapons spread through their hulls. For a few minutes it looked like the Threx approach might succeed. Then the Devourer ships began to change again. They absorbed the bioweapons, integrated them, turned them into new defensive systems. What had been attacking them became part of them. Phase 2 complete, Marcus said grimly. Human forces, you are weapons free. Show them what impossible looks like. The human ships dropped their stealth fields, revealing their true numbers. There weren't just the 37 vessels that had been visible. There were over 200 ships, including several dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in the Kalari or Threx fleets. But the weapons they deployed weren't conventional. Beams of twisted spacetime lanced out from the human ships, striking the Devourer vessels with weapons that existed partially outside normal reality. The effect was immediate and absolute. The first Devourer ship simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not vaporized, but removed from the timeline entirely. It had never been there at all. The second ship tried to adapt, its hull reconfiguring frantically. But you can't adapt to something that removes you from causality itself. It flickered, wavered, and vanished. The third ship lasted longer, its systems desperately trying to comprehend what was happening to it. But temporal displacement was beyond even Devourer adaptive capabilities. It faded from existence like a bad dream upon waking. The combined fleet hung in space, staring at empty coordinates where 3 of the galaxy's most feared predators had been moments before. This is War Leader Kethvar, came the stunned voice over the communications array. Confirm target elimination. Targets eliminated, Dr. Kim replied. No trace of their construction project detected. Threat neutralized. How? Zekthal clicked. How did you create weapons that remove targets from time itself? Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering how much to reveal. We had 30 years to think about what we'd do if we encountered something that could adapt to anything we threw at it. The answer was to throw something that exists outside the normal rules. Shivara's voice was barely above a whisper. What else have you built? What other impossible weapons? Hopefully we'll never need to find out, Marcus replied. But if we do, they'll be ready. The fleet began to reform, preparing for the journey back to the station. But the galaxy had changed in the last few hours. 3 species had worked together to eliminate a threat that none of them could have handled alone. They had proven that cooperation was not only possible but essential. Guardian Prime. Kethvar's voice carried a new note of respect. The Kalari formally request continued alliance with human forces. As do the Threx, Zekthal added. Your methods are effective. Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking about the threat still waiting in the darkness. The Devourers were gone, but there were other dangers. The AI rebellion, the dimensional tiers, threats that hadn't even been discovered yet. Alliance accepted, he said finally. Welcome to the future, gentlemen. Let's hope we're strong enough to survive it. Dr. Kim smiled as she began shutting down her weapon systems. Marcus, what are you going to tell the other species when they ask how we did it? Marcus grinned. I'm going to tell them the truth. We did what humans always do when faced with impossible odds, which is, we changed the rules. As the combined fleet headed home, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning. The age of isolated species competing for dominance was ending. The age of cooperation against impossible threats had begun, and at the center of it all, humanity had finally revealed what they truly were. Not the galaxy's weakest species, but its most adaptable. Not just survivors, but gardeners who would tend the stars themselves if necessary. The slap heard across the galaxy had become the handshake that would save it.